Hey everybody, welcome to Mappy Hour Chicago. This is our very first Mappy Hour live in Chicago, and I'm super excited to have you guys here live streaming with me. My name is Erica Zeza. I'm the chapter lead here in Chicago of Mappy Hour. For those of you who may be tuning in to Mappy Hour for the first time online, or maybe you've not even gotten the chance to hang out with us in person before, just wanted to let you know that we are a group of outdoor enthusiasts who live in the city but love the outdoors. And we've got various chapters all around the country, and this is the Chicago chapter, and we're doing a live stream today, which I'm very excited about. Since we can't all hang out in person, we've got chat options for you guys to interact with our speaker today. So you can either comment on YouTube if you're watching there, on Facebook, or if you're on our mappyhour.org website, you can also comment there. So just ask you all to be as respectful as you would in person, and feel free as you're listening in to ask questions, and we'll end today's session with our speaker as a Q&A. I did want to give a quick shout out too before we begin to the North Face, who's our sponsor nationally and especially here in Chicago. They've been a great partner to us, and hopefully one day looking forward to seeing you guys again soon here in the store for a future event. So before we get started and bring Artt in, I just wanted to introduce him. Today we're talking about Chicago's local forest preserves, and specifically all of the ecosystems here in Chicago and what they are, how to explore them, and kind of a guide to exploring the forest preserve system. So Artt Mathews, he's our speaker. He's a Chicago, located here in Chicago, and he's a big avid biker. And he's also the operations manager at the Forest Preserves, specifically in the Department of Conservation and Experiential Programming, which I'm excited to learn about what exactly that means. So I'm going to bring him in here and we'll get started. So welcome to Artt.
Hello, how are you, Erica?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here. I wanted to first just give you the chance to introduce yourself. I might have not done the best job there. And I really want to learn about your department, and also if you can share a little bit about the preserves for people who might not know what they are or kind of the magnitude of them here in Chicago.
Sure. So first of all, as you said, my name is Artt Mathews, and I am the operations manager for the Conservation and Experiential Programming Department. It's kind of a mouthful. I've been with the Forest Preserves of Cook County for 6 years. This month marks my 6th year, as a matter of fact. And a little bit of my history. I grew up around one of our nature centers, the Sandridge Nature Center, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. I grew up I love the outdoors. I was a Boy Scout growing up, so that was my first delve into the natural world and camping and all, hiking and all those sorts of things. And it just kind of stuck with me throughout my life. And I ended up working for the Boy Scouts of America, the Chicago Area Council, for 10 years, just before I started with the Forest Preserves of Cook County. So this job is really close to my heart. I enjoy what I do, and I just enjoy what we give to the public.
That's great. And so for those who might not know whether they're, have lived in Chicago for a while and have heard of the forest reserves, or maybe we have guests from across the country, what exactly are the forest preserves? And can you give a little overview of what they are exactly?
Well, forest preserves are exactly what the title says. We preserve natural spaces, forest land throughout Cook County, and we're actually one of the oldest and largest forest preserve in the country. We started in 1914, so we've been around for over 100 years. And as I say, we're one of the largest forest preserve in the country at almost 70,000 acres. And just to give you an idea of how large that is, it takes up 11% of the footprint of Cook County. And Cook County is a huge area. So we're pretty big. I believe we are the largest forest preserve in the country, 70,000 acres. And it's made up of all types of ecosystems, which I'll talk about in a minute as well. Most of our preserves are situated outside of Chicago. We do have a few preserves that sit in Chicago proper, such as Dan Ryan Woods, which is in the South region, in the Calumet region. Dan Ryan Woods is great for picnics. It's a really great place for families to get together and just kind of spend time together. There are a lot of family reunions out there in Dan Ryan Woods. And then in the north, we have Caldwell Woods, which is the beginning of our North Branch Trail. You want to hike that trail or bike that trail, it's a great one. Another one in the city is Bobian Woods, which is also in the Calumet region. There's a beautiful lake, Flatfoot Lake, that sits right within Bobian Woods. And then there's Eggers Grove, which is further south and east, that still sits inside the city. There's some great trails around there as well.
Cool. Yeah, I love that. I moved to Chicago like 5 years ago, and I was trying to find green space in the city outside of just my neighborhood park. And when you zoom out of Google Maps on the city, you start to notice that green kind of ring around the city.
It's like a green ring around it. You're right.
Yeah.
Right.
So if people are maybe visiting, or if you live here and you're not quite sure, or don't want to dive onto a website, maybe zooming out from your neighborhood and seeing where the green space is. It's super visible online, I feel, here in Chicago.
Very visible, yes. And people drive past them all the time, our maroon signs that say Forest Preserve, but not everyone goes into a grove. So we hope more people will do that.
Cool. Yeah, I've just pulled up your presentation. We can dive into kind of the details of today's talk, which we're understanding more so, we've got forest reserves, but there's a lot more to it. Ecosystems make up those forest reserves, and we wanted to learn a little bit more about that. So let me click through here, through your slides. I wanted to,
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to touch again on that 70,000 acres piece here highlighted. I cut you off before too.
Yeah, one thing I was going to add about what I do at our Department of Conservation and Experiential Programming, basically what we do is we offer outdoor experiences to the public. We're right here. We surround one of the largest cities in America, and there are many people within the city that don't make it outside of the city. So what we offer, we're the public-facing department. We offer education, recreation, and conservation to the public. And we basically show people how to recreate and utilize this huge forest preserves that's right in their backyard.
That's awesome. Yeah. Are there certain areas that you've seen a lot of engagement with recently, or, what does that look like today, especially given the COVID situation here in the city?
Yeah, that has, it's really been a damper on our programming, I'll say. Now, the forest preserves have never really closed down. We have been monitoring some of the more popular sites. And some of the sites, what we've done is we've closed down the parking lots over the weekends because it was just too many people gathering at one time. But other than that, our trail system has remained open. We've got over 300 miles of trails, multi-use trails for biking, hiking, horseback riding, that sort of thing. So those remained open. But again, our programming schedules we've had to really dial those back. So most of our programming is done virtually now, online. So we've been building up a nice, robust virtual programming list. If you go to our website, you can find out about those as well. So that's really the main thing that's changed. Instead of in-person programming, we're more virtual now. And all of our large programs we've had to cancel those for basically the rest of the year.
Got it. So definitely, if you're thinking about all the acres that we have here, and like now you've maybe got to plan your own trip versus jumping in on a guided experience or a program that you might be coordinating, this is going to be helpful to kind of like tweeze out what type of outdoor experiences you want. So let's get into that a little bit. Can you give us an overview? I mean, we've pulled out here some of the ecosystems, like in a general sense, what is an ecosystem for me as somebody who maybe forgets from elementary science class?
Right. So in its most simplest form, an ecosystem is basically a community of living organisms that live and thrive together. So, that they all sort of rely on each other to actually thrive. So if one portion of an ecosystem is unhealthy, then that affects all the other parts of an ecosystem. So an ecosystem really relies on, each other to live and to thrive. And so we have, as you can see on the screen there, we have 4 main ecosystems. Well, I have to first say that the Forest Preserves of Cook County is one of the most diverse ecosystems in all of Illinois and in the country, as a matter of fact. But these are 4 of our main ecosystems: woodlands, savannas, wetlands, and prairies. So I'll just talk about those in a little bit more detail. First of all, I'm going to start with woodlands, forest woodlands. So this type of ecosystem is dominated by trees. And obviously, most people associate us with this because it's obviously in our name as well, the forest preserves. So it's what we're most known for. So wooded communities are often described by their dominant trees like oak hickory woodlands, maple elm, basswood forests, or tree canopy density. Some of the most popular sites that you will find rich woodland would be the Palos Preserves. Palos Preserves is one of our largest holdings, our largest contiguous land holdings. It's about 4,000 acres, and it's a beautiful region.
Yeah.
Thousands of acres of trees and dense forest there. One of the holdings within the Palos Preserves is Cap Sowers, which is an open woodland, and then McClary Springs Woods is a more dense forest. And then one of our nature centers, we have 6 nature centers. One of our nature centers that's known for their sugar maples is River Trail Nature Center, which is situated in Northbrook, Illinois, off of Milwaukee Avenue. And it sits right along the Des Plaines River. So you must visit the River Trail Nature Center if you come to Chicago or if you're from Chicago. In the fall, the sugar maple trees offer visitors a stunning display of fall color with both the canopy and grounds covered in shimmering gold and yellow leaves. It's a beautiful sight to see. There's also trails that surround River Trail Nature Center with interpretive signs. Just to say, like, there are mountain biking trails and other walking trails as well. They're very popular. And by the way, almost every place I mentioned, there'll be trails that you can either bike or hike.
Yeah, I love Palos specifically for biking, right, and hiking.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably one of the more like hilly areas in the city.
It is very hilly. Yeah, it's one of the most diverse as far as topography. Like you said, there's a lot of hills there. And I didn't mention the Swallow Cliff Stairs. Anyone from Chicago or in the Palos region is familiar with the Swallow Cliff Stairs. They're a set of about 149 limestone stairs that people use to actually exercise. We've had to actually block off half of that parking lot because it's so popular.
Wow.
And during this the period of COVID, we've had to really monitor that site.
Yeah, everyone wants to get out and challenge themselves for a change of pace, and then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But back to River Trail Nature Center, because it is a nature center, it's a great place to learn even more about the native plants and the habitat that surrounds there. So I highly recommend you visiting. Now, normally at River Trail Nature Center, they take advantage of those sugar maples, and every year they host Maple Syrup Fest, which is in March. Couldn't hold it this year, obviously. Or actually, we did hold it this year, and then COVID hit right after that. And then in fall, they host the Fall Festival, which happens in October. And that's a really popular and very fun event. So hopefully 2021, we will be hosting those 2 events at River Trail Nature Center.
Cool. But people can still go to the center today. It's open.
Oh, yeah. The center is still open.
Cool.
We originally closed down the Nature Center grounds and the buildings on the grounds. July 4th weekend, we actually opened the Nature Center grounds. So all 6 nature centers are now open to the public. The grounds are open, but the indoor facilities remain closed. But there are bathroom facilities there on site as well.
Cool.
So moving right along, our second ecosystem I'm going to discuss are prairies. So prairies are just open grassland with no trees. And historically, prairies covered much more of Cook County than they do now, and than any other ecosystem, actually. From Chicago, a person could travel 10 miles west through waving prairie grasses before arriving at the woods of the Des Plaines River Valley. So there's a lot of prairie land that covers the Chicago area and the outskirts. And fall is an excellent time to explore prairies and see fall prairie plants like asters, sunflowers, and goldenrods. A great place to experience prairie lands is Orland Grasslands, which is located near Orland Park, which is kind of southwest of the city. So Orland Grasslands is a former farmland but it's been restored to its natural existence, which is more prairie plants. And what we've done is we've hydrologically repaired the prairie land to allow it to once again retain water, which usually disables agricultural drainage tiles. So we've really restored a lot of the prairie land to its natural grandeur, and you can experience that in Orland, in our Orland's grassland. And then another example would be Shoe Factory Road Nature Preserve, which is located in the northwest of Cook County near Hoffman Estates. And this preserve is part of another huge set of the Arthur Janura preserves, which is another huge holding of nearly 4,000 acres. Now this has a rare gravel hill prairie, which is a prairie on a hill, usually one left behind by a glacier. The plants here are adapted to dry, windy, and sunny conditions, lower to the ground than the tall grass prairie, just a few hundred yards away.
I'm going to ask you a curveball question because I've always been curious about it. There's some bison viewing areas in some of Chicago's prairies, aren't there? Are you familiar with that?
Bison viewing areas. Ooh, okay, you stumped me. I'm not familiar with that.
I think it's, is it the Midwin National Tallgrass Prairie in Chicago? I think it might be, maybe it's a part of a different preserve system, maybe further north.
I believe so.
But there's some pretty unique places, I think, throughout the preserve system to see wildlife, especially. But I have to imagine if you're not traveling to see like a bison lookout point, even just like probably bird populations vary and things like that between.
The bird population is so diverse. Yeah. And I'm always excited when I see the sandhill cranes.
Right.
Oh, wow. I mean, they're so big. They're bigger than you think,
Right.
And you get to see them up close and personal. And herons and just all types of birds. Yeah, we have great bird watching.
Yeah, that's great.
In our locations. So the third ecosystem I want to discuss are savannas. Savannas are a hybrid of prairie and woodland. So savanna will often look like a prairie, but then it'll have scattered trees, as you can see in the picture there. Or it'll have small clusters of trees, but mostly in a prairie setting. So a savanna typically looks like an open field of grass and wildflowers with scattered trees, as I said, and an occasional cluster of trees. One of the great examples of savannas are Powderhorn Lake. Powderhorn Lake is great. We actually do a large event called Kids Fest every year at Powderhorn Lake because it sits on a beautiful lake. And then you've got the savanna that surrounds that lake. Powderhorn Lake is tucked away in the far southeast side of Chicago. Supports the savanna as well as prairie and wetland habitats as well. And it reflects the ecological richness that survives in similar pockets across the industrialized Calumet region. So, you're in the Calumet region, 1 minute you'll see industrial factories, and then the next minute you're in the forest reserves, you're at Powderhorn Lake. And it really takes you out of that city setting, and it's just a beautiful backdrop.
Yeah, it springs up another question for me too. That idea of being able to camp here in the city, like if you got forest land that you guys have heard of, like turned into some camping sites. Can you share a little bit about that? Because one second you're driving from the industrial district, and then you're at a lake that you can camp next to in the city.
So we have 5 campgrounds. We opened our campgrounds in 2015, so they're still pretty new. And we call them the getaway that's not far away, because like you said, they're really in your backyard.
Right.
We've got 2 campgrounds up north. We've got Camp Reinberg, which is in Palatine. We've got Camp Dan Beard, which the Boy Scouts love. That's in Northbrook. And then coming south, we've got Camp Bullfrog, which is the only campground of ours that's situated on a lake. It's situated on Bullfrog Lake. Beautiful as well. We've got Camp Shabona, which is in the southeast and is actually connected to Sandridge Nature Center. So it kind of provides a whole campus of activities there at Sandridge Nature Center, which is in South Holland. And I think that's our smallest campground. And then lastly, we've got Camp Sullivan, which is in Oak Forest, not too far from Orland grassland. So our campgrounds have cabins. You know, if you can go glamping or you can go camping at our campgrounds. You don't want to get too dirty. You know, you rent a cabin. We've got 3-season cabins, 4-season cabins with air, heat, bathrooms. We have beautiful bathroom shower buildings. We have RV sites at our campgrounds as well. And we have tent pads. Now Camp Sullivan is unique because it has more. We have tent pad camping, and then we have more sort of wooded camping where you just literally set your tent up on the ground in a more wooded, heavily wooded area and just have a more natural experience.
Got it. So if you're centrally located, like maybe closer to Loop, how long would you say it would take me to get from my door in the city to a campsite here?
Any one of our campsites, I would say, depending on traffic, we all know what Chicago traffic is like.
Yeah.
So keeping traffic in mind, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Some maybe half an hour. It really depends on where you're leaving from. You know, half an hour, 45 minutes, I would say. So you can get to all of our campgrounds within an hour.
Got it. And you guys do rentals now, or are you still doing that?
We are still. So again, we closed our campgrounds and our nature centers in the beginning of this COVID period. And then we were able to open our campgrounds and our nature center grounds on that July 4th weekend. So now campgrounds are now open. They are open to limited capacity still. But you can do everything there. You know, if you got an RV, we have RV sites. If you got a tent, we have tent pads. The only things that are closed on the campgrounds are our group sites. So
cool.
Everything, you can do everything except camp in our group sites at campgrounds.
Awesome. Well, I'm a big camper, so I haven't camped here yet. So sorry for deterring that, but
no, that's all right. I'm really excited about our campgrounds. They become so popular, really popular. So getting back to our ecosystem, so wetlands. So wetland is just like it sounds. It's land that's either covered by or saturated with water for at least part of the year. Wetlands, particularly small ones, occur all across Cook County. And particularly at Sandridge Nature Center. I mentioned Sandridge Nature Center before. I actually grew up right across from Sandridge, right next to Sandridge Nature Center. So that one's close to my heart as well. So Sandridge is located in South Holland and features a large marsh, which is a specific type of wetland. It's a permanent body of water surrounded by and interspersed with vegetation. And that would, on the picture there is a really nice boardwalk that we recently built to take you through the wetlands because that's wet all year round. So that boardwalk will just carry you right on the top of it and see some really good sights and animals, you know, frogs, turtles, salamanders, all kind of things are living down in that marsh. And this site also has the same dune and swell topography as at Powderhorn Lake, found in the Calumet, and it's only found in the Calumet region. It's a rare type of mix of ecosystems. They're ridges and lowland formed by ancient beaches from when Lake Michigan was actually much larger. So there's a lot of history surrounding the Sandridge Nature Center. So I highly recommend you visiting the Sandridge Nature Center just to learn a bit more about that history, that ecological history. It's so ecologically diverse in that small area. It's sand-based with different types of plants and animals at the drier, higher ground than in the swells, which feature another kind of wetland. So like River Trail, this nature center is an excellent place, as I say, to learn more about the geological atmosphere there that surrounds it. Now, another wetland is the Skokie lagoons. Skokie lagoons have become really, really popular. Skokie lagoons were once a huge marsh, and the Forest Preserves acquired land in the Skokie Valley in 1920 with plans to create lagoons for recreation and flood and mosquito control. These plans came to life after Franklin D. Roosevelt formed the Civilian Conservation Corps, the CCC, to put unemployed men back to work during the Great Depression. So between 1933 and 1941, thousands of men, including 3 segregated African-American companies, lived and worked at Camp Skokie Valley and created these, what's now the Skokie Lagoons. So they built a series of lagoons and they drained the marsh. Today, Skokie Lagoons is great for water recreation. We actually host some events. Our North Zone team hosts paddling events on the Skokie Lagoon, which are very popular. I think that's a picture of one of our paddling events. Could be. So visitors can fish and paddle on their own as well. There are great paved trails there leading up to Chicago Botanic Garden, as a matter of fact, on the north border. Yeah, so Skokie Lagoons has proven really, really popular with the public.
Yeah, at Mappy Hour, we have actually launched something we're calling the Chicago Explore More Challenge, where we've got 10 different adventures you can take throughout the city, and it's kind of a guide. So I think two things I want to mention was that this Explore Challenge is still happening, and one of the challenges is actually taking your bike from the city up into and riding your bike on the Forest Preserve trails all the way up to the Botanic Gardens.
Nice.
But I also think I've been talking to some members about the kayaking and canoeing experience here, and we also have that as one of our challenges. So what can you share about people who don't have a kayak in the city and maybe want to go up in the Skokie Lagoons? Is there through the Forest Reserves, can you rent kayaks or canoes?
Yes, you can rent kayaks or canoes there at Skokie Lagoons. There's a site there for rental. There's also a rental facility at Maple Lake, which is in Willow Springs, and at Tamper Lake as well. So yes, by all means, if you go to our website, fpdcc.com, and you click on things to do, and then you click on boating, and then a list of all of our rental locations will come up with pricing and also, so you don't have to have your own canoe or kayak. You can definitely rent those.
Cool.
And also actually at our campground, Camp Bullfrog Lake, you can rent kayaks there. We aren't renting them at the moment in this period, but normally we would rent from Camp Bullfrog as well.
Awesome.
But the other rental locations are renting at this time.
Cool.
So which kind of brings me to Waterways. So the Forest Preserve contains many bodies of open waters, although there are no naturally occurring lakes in the Forest Preserves. So all the lakes that you encounter in the Forest Preserves are man-made. But we do offer boating, or we do permit boating, fishing at certain lakes. Again, if you go to our website, you will learn about the lakes that are specific to fishing and the ones that are specific to boating and that sort of thing. So there are more than 40 fishing areas, many of which we stock with sport fish such as rainbow trout, sunfish, or channel catfish, amongst others. So there's three major rivers that flow through the Forest Preserves of Cook County. There's the North Branch of the Chicago River, there's the Des Plaines River, and then there's the Little Calumet River, which is in the South region. So the Forest Preserves line a majority of the upper Des Plaines as well as the North Branch of the Chicago River. And, you can also canoe or kayak through any of our rivers. But I do recommend that you launch at one of our boat launches along the rivers. And that's information you can also find on our website as well. Awesome. And also I want to mention there's a number of smaller streams that wind through the Forest Preserves that are really beautiful, including Salt Creek, Poplar Creek, Thorn Creek, out south, Crooked Creek, and Tenley Creek. And as I said, there are boat launches located throughout the preserves, as well as sites for boat rentals.
Cool. We might have to do a future Mappy Hour Live where we dive into fishing tips, because that looks like a beautiful lake to fish at.
Yeah, really. Oh, Horsetail Lake. Yes, that's a large one too.
Awesome. We've got a couple more here of kind of hot spots in the city. Dan Ryan Woods is one of them.
Yeah, I think that's Dan Ryan Woods. So Dan Ryan Woods is one of my favorites. Dan Ryan Woods is one of the few that are situated within the city, and if you see in the background there, you can see the Sears Tower. Well, Willis Tower. I call it Sears Tower as it's historically known. So Dan Ryan Woods sits on one of the largest or the highest points in the city. And on a clear day, obviously this was a very clear day when this was taken, you can see the Sears Tower very clearly, as you see in the photo there. But the Dan Ryan Woods is definitely one of the most popular sites, well known for picnics and family gatherings on the south side. My family actually used to go there for family reunions as well, so I know it well. as I said, it features one of the highest points in Chicago. Also, you can head to the southern section too, where there are oak woodland and savanna. You can see the oak trees in the background there. And those are some of those trees are really mature. And once you're out there, you really quickly forget that you're in the city. There's also a series of historic limestone aqueducts constructed by the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps. Oh, there we go. Yeah. And those still remain. And those were built to prevent water from washing away soil on the preserve's steep ridges. And they were really built well because they still remain there and you can walk through them.
That's cool. So they'll fill up with water if there's a huge storm or something?
Correct. That's right. And that's the thing. People don't realize that the forest preserve really helps with flood control as well. You know, but those the floodplain areas really absorb most of the water that would otherwise be flooding our streets.
That's awesome. I got to check that out. It almost makes me want to go there when it's raining, just to like experience what the aqueducts are like. Yeah.
Right.
I've never seen that. That's really cool.
Yeah. And then another interesting place, the Sagawa Environmental Learning Center. And that's located in Lamont, Illinois, which is in the southwest area of Cook County. And it's home to Cook County's only canyon. Only accessible, but it's only accessible for tours, guided tours. You can't go down there yourself. But that's a really unique feature for that particular nature center. And if you visit the nature center, you'll learn more about the history of why that canyon exists, you know, how it got there, how it formed. So yeah, there's a lot of information there. Also at Sagawa, we have a Nordic ski center in the wintertime. So in the wintertime, when we do have snow, there we go. Yeah, we've got cross-country skiing. You can rent your skis and boots, and there's a trail that surrounds the center, and it goes through the woods as well. A treated trail that you can take, you know, if you're into cross-country skiing or if you want to try it. It's a fun activity. It's lower energy, so you're not going to come out, you know, breathless when you finish. You know, like downhill skiing. So yeah. I think it's a fun, relaxing activity.
Cool. I hope we get saunas put in and fire pits so we can live a true Nordic lifestyle.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. But it's really popular in the wintertime. So I highly recommend it. Lamont, Illinois.
Cool.
Another little gem is Redgate Woods. Now, there's an interesting fact about Redgate Woods. In 1942, scientists at the University of Chicago produced the first controlled nuclear chain reaction in human history right there at Redgate Woods. And people still come up to me and ask about it, you know. So I give them as much history as I can on it. So soon after 1942, the nuclear reactor was relocated to Site A on land leased from the Forest Preserves District of Cook County in Redgate Woods. When Site A closed in 1954, the two reactors were buried and a decades-long environmental cleanup and monitoring effort began. So in 1991, after extensive cleanup by the Department of Energy, the area was reopened for safe public recreation. Redgate Woods remains the burial site of the world's first nuclear reactors. So they always ask me, is it safe? It is definitely safe.
That's good.
And another site, to give you a little bit more history, is the Chicago Portage National Historic Site. This is one of only 2 National Historic Sites in Illinois, so this one is really popular as well. It marks the western end of the historic Portage, linking the Great Lakes to the Mississippi River. It was used by the Native Americans to cross from one waterway to the other, and then later by the French explorers coming through the area. We also host a rendezvous, historic Des Plaines Valley rendezvous, that talks about this very history here. Unfortunately, we had to cancel it for this year, but it normally takes place at Columbia Woods in the Palos region in September. So you can look for that next year, 2021, hopefully. Also, the Chicago Portage National Historic Site is the last remnant of that Portage route that still appears much as it did when Native Americans and European explorers traveled through it. This is located in Lyons in West Cook County. So that's one you definitely want to visit as well.
Cool.
And most of our groves have ample parking. So there's no problem with that. If you're driving to a location, you don't have to worry about parking because there's ample parking at each site. And you just leave your car, get out, you walk or bike, whatever you desire at that time.
Got it. That's really helpful. This is there's definitely some places I didn't see in here. Do you have a favorite spot in the whole city that you either covered or didn't cover?
Let me think. Well, the Palos region, I have to go back to the Palos region. It's so diverse as far as topography. And I grew up on the southeast side of the city, and I never knew about that whole Palos region, Swallow Cliff. I didn't know about that until I actually worked for the Forest Reserve. So I'm actually looking forward to doing some biking. I did a little bit of mountain biking when I first started, which wore me out. But I'm looking to do some more leisurely bike riding in the Palos region and the Calumet region. There's some awesome bike trails.
Yeah.
So yeah, right now the Palos region is kind of my favorite area to sort of explore.
That's cool.
Yeah.
One of my bucket list Chicago things to do would be trying out bike packing, which at a Mappy Hour New York City has done a series recently about how to bike pack, and it could be possible, I think, that you could maybe take your bike, leave from your apartment, bike to one of the preserves like Palos, make your way through and camp at somewhere like Bullfrog Lake, for example. So
yeah, absolutely.
That could be a pretty cool adventure that maybe we'll have to plan sometime.
Yeah, that sounds good. And if people do want to camp at our campgrounds, they need to go to our website. There's a number they can call to actually make reservations over the phone. Before you come, the campgrounds book up pretty quickly, so I recommend booking well ahead of time, especially now that there's limited camping, limited capacity.
What about other resources for finding which trails to hike and stuff? Where can people go on your site, and what kind of things would you point them to if they were to ask?
Yeah, we just launched our interactive web map. So if you go to our website, fpdcc.com, and you click on maps, the interactive web map will come up, and that's a really useful tool for finding locations that may be near you or anywhere within the Forest Preserve system. It's a really user-friendly source. Cool.
Anything else that we didn't get to?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to mention one other little site, one other little gem. Rolling Knolls is one of our latest acquisitions, and it's about 540 acres of, it used to be a golf course. And so it's very hilly and it's very scenic. And we now host disc golf there. Disc golf has been really, really popular. We've partnered with a disc golf club that's sort of helping to keep up the area. But if you love disc golf, or if you've never tried disc golf, I had never tried disc golf before working for the Forest Preserve, so it's a fun activity. We also host activities out there. There's a pond there as well, but the topography is just so stunning, and there's a trail system that runs through it. And this is in Elgin, as a matter of fact. This is in the North region in Elgin. So I highly recommend you visiting Rolling Knolls Forest Preserve. That's another little gem that not a lot of people know about.
Cool.
Beautiful site.
Artt, we actually had a couple of questions come in for you, so we can kind of wrap this up with some of the viewer questions. If you're not sure, we can kind of point them to the website, but here's a few from a member, Gary. He was asking if the Prairie were intact when the Forest Reserves got them, or were they reclaimed?
Some were intact. Some were reclaimed, and our resources management team, I mean, they're amazing in what they do. They actually restore prairies to their natural grandeur, if we required them and they were not that way. So that's the work that they do every day, just restoring natural spaces like prairies back to their natural, putting the natural plants that were there. This is what they work on every day. It's a lot of restoration projects that are going on.
Cool. He was also curious if any of the small non-tree plants were different in a savanna versus a prairie.
Ooh, that's a great question. I believe that a lot of the plants are the same. The only difference is that, you know, where a forest meets the prairie, kind of in between that, at that point there is basically a savanna. You know, you've got clusters of trees, and then you have basically what amounts to be a prairie. So I would say that savannas and prairies contain very similar plants.
Got it.
Yes.
And then we've got one more question from Leah. She was curious about the North Branch of the river, and if you have insight on the water quality up there, and also for kayaking, specifically in Forest Glen, how would she go about kayaking there?
Well, I'm going to actually direct her to our website. All that information is contained there. If you go to our website and you click on things to do, again, you click on boating, and you can type in Forest Glen or just find Forest Glen as one of the locations, and it will give you all of that detailed information.
Got it. And if there wasn't a boat launch there, maybe finding one at a nearby preserve that she could boat up to. Maybe.
Yes, all that information. Unfortunately, I'm not versed on where all the boat launches are, but our website would be the best place to find out that information.
Got it. Cool. And just a few kind of fun facts from folks who are tuning in. We've got like locals who used to live here who have now moved on, and this has like excited them to want to come back to the shores. And some folks have already been canoeing in Skokie lagoons and said it was a good place for beginners to start, just for probably because there's just lots of space for you to be kayaking and canoeing.
And it's such a beautiful setting too.
Yeah. And then one person said that they've been excited and wanting to get involved in the volunteer training throughout the reserve. That usually it's in person, to have to do it in person. And he'd love to see an online option for being involved in the volunteer training. But I think more specifically, like, it's cool that you guys even offer volunteer opportunities for people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, if they visit our website and go to volunteer resources, they will connect you with either a nature center or a steward of one of our preserves. And so we're still doing in-person types of thing, programming, but on a very limited basis. So I would urge them to visit our website and look for volunteer opportunities.
Cool. Do those usually look like a cleanup, or do you have insight on what those look like?
Yeah, they range from cleanups to restoration projects. There are a lot of invasive species in our forest preserves, like honeysuckle, what's another? Garlic mustard. Another one is, there's another big one too. Honeysuckle, garlic mustard, and I have my little cheap, buckthorn. Yes. We cut a lot of buckthorn down, and we actually use that buckthorn for things like shelter building, when we have like opportunities for kids to build things in our natural play areas, which is called nature play. So we use a lot of the buckthorn that we cut down. Buckthorn is a huge invasive. We use it as firewood as well. So there's a lot of use for the invasive species that invade our forests.
Interesting.
But yeah, volunteers do all that sort of work. It depends on what they're interested in doing. There's a lot of outside work that needs to be done at our nature centers. For instance, at River Trail Nature Center, we're building a large pollinator garden. We have volunteers that come there and help weed the garden, keep it nice and healthy. So there's a lot of different things that volunteers can do.
That's great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it sounds like, quite honestly, there's no better time to get outside here, just because we're itching to, or, now we've got resources like you all who are putting together, guides for how to do this. So thank you so much. I'll leave it to you if there's anything else you want to add.
Yeah, I just want to say that, if you're venturing out into the forest preserves, we just want everyone to be safe amid this COVID-19 pandemic. We do recommend that you carry a face mask with you. And if you encounter people, we ask that you do wear a face mask, or at the very least, make sure you're socially distanced,
Mm-hmm.
just like anywhere else. And we don't allow crowds of more than 50 in the phase that we're in. We're in phase 4 for Illinois. So we don't permit crowds of more than 50 people to gather in one area. We are now permitting picnics. We hadn't been permitting those for the last few months, but picnic groves are now open for picnics. Any groups more than 25 will have to apply for a picnic permit, and you can do that online through our permits department. But we do ask that you please remain safe while you're out there in the forest preserves and respect others, and just in keeping that distance.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Artt. This has been really awesome. And I personally hope we get to see you on the trail and can go biking or hiking sometime.
I'll be ready to go. Let me know when, and I'm ready.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll talk to you later. And thanks so much for tuning in with us. And for everyone online, thank you for being here. We're still figuring out future dates, but we're going to continue this live stream session. And we hope to see you soon in person when we're able to. So thanks again. And we'll see you next time for Mappy Hour.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.